By connecting the dots, we can determine that the people whom Isaiah says Ammon shall obey are the people reigning over them. Since the events Daniel describes occur after the events Isaiah describes, we can surmise the prominent people of Ammon referred to by Daniel are those governing Jordan at the time the Antichrist marches into Israel. According to Isaiah, those sovereign over Jordan at that time are the Jews. Therefore, the prominent people of Ammon, who Daniel declares will escape the march of the Antichrist, will be Jewish governors. Because the Antichrist is on a campaign to overthrow the Jews and kill them, his focus is on the supreme leadership of the Jews headquartered in Israel, rather than their ambassadors and governors stationed in Ammon. This is the reason the prominent people of Ammon, which are Jews, escape. Daniel 11:42-43 tells us that he will go down into Egypt, and he will take their treasure. He'll probably use the excuse of taking out the established Jewish cities there as a reason for moving into the area, but Daniel makes it clear that he will be taking the treasure from this area, which is probably his real motivation. Israel will take prisoners of war. They will establish future detention camps in the regions of southern Lebanon and the Negev.
Wail, O Heshbon, for Ai is destroyed. Cry out, O inhabitants of Rabbah. Put on sackcloth and mourn. Rush here and there inside the walls, for Molech will go into exile, together with his priests and officials. Woe to you, O Moab! The people of Chemosh are destroyed. Your sons are taken into exile, and your daughters into captivity. Yet I will restore the fortunes of Moab in days to come, declares the Lord. Here ends the judgment on Moab. Leave your orphans. I will protect their lives. Your widows too can trust in me.
The refugees left behind are the fatherless and the widows. The mighty men, soldiers, as they are called in Obadiah 1:9, are slaughtered in defeat, and the refugees left behind are instructed to trust in the Lord. According to Obadiah, these fatherless children and widows are transported to internment camps.
The house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. The house of Esau will be stubble, and they will set it on fire and consume it. There will be no survivors from the house of Esau. The Lord has spoken. People from the Negev will occupy the mountains of Esau, and people from the foothills will possess the land of the Philistines. They will occupy the fields of Ephraim and Samaria, and Benjamin will possess Gilead. This company of Israelite exiles who are in Canaan will possess the land as far as Zarephath. The exiles from Jerusalem who are in Sepharad will possess the towns of the Negev. Deliverers will go up on Mount Zion to govern the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's.
Some teach that the captives of Jerusalem refers to the return of the Jewish people back into Israel from Spain and other associated areas. However, the Hebrew word Obadiah uses for this host is Kael, which is defined as a collateral form of an army, also by analogy an entrenchment or bulwark. This host, the ones referred to in verse 18 as the houses of Jacob and Joseph, and known in verse 19 as the possessors of the expanded territories, relocates Palestinian exiles. The Hebrew word here used by Obadiah for possesses is yaresh, and in this instance we can translate it to supplanted. The inference here is that the Israeli army will take prisoners of war and detain them in designated areas. Israel will establish two camps for these POWs, one in the north as far as Zarephath, which is modern-day Lebanon, and one to the south, referring to the Negev, also identified in verse 19. Jeremiah says, "The earth shakes at the sound of their fall." This shows the magnitude of the effect that this war will have on the international community. The Hebrew word used here is rash, which expresses trembling experienced during a devastating earthquake and its aftershocks.
At the sound of their fall the earth will tremble, their cry will resound to the Red Sea.
Isaiah 17:12-13 describes it this way.
O the raging of many nations, they rage like the raging sea. O the uproar of the peoples, they roar like the roaring of great waters. Although the peoples roar like the roar of surging waters, when he rebukes them they flee far away, driven before the wind like chaff on the hills, like tumbleweed before a gale.
The judgment to befall Edom will serve as a precursor to the judgment that will come before the day of the Lord upon all the nations. Zephaniah 2 makes clear that this judgment against Edom, which also extends to the other coalition member nations, is to serve as an example to other nations, but more importantly, it is a call to the meek of the earth to get right before the day of the Lord and the rapture of the church occurs. Zephaniah sets the stage as follows. The Jews return into the land of Israel, then conquer the Arab alliance which is orchestrated by Iran. As a result, Israeli fortunes are greatly enhanced. Then Zephaniah alludes to the advance against a regionally superior Israel by the Russian-Iranian coalition spoken of in chapters 38 and 39 of Ezekiel, which is commonly referred to as the War of Gog and Magog. Lastly, he declares that these events occur before the day of the Lord arrives, which is a time period known as tribulation. He prophesied this for the primary purpose of invoking the meek of the earth, which is Christians, into the worship of God. Included with the return of the Jewish people to their homeland is the restoration of their fortunes. This is an important area of biblical prophecy not to be overlooked. Zephaniah, in his call to caution, tells us to consider very carefully this important episode. When they, you, witness Israel empowered, they are to recognize that the time to take action and be hidden from the day of the Lord is running out.